Welcome to Zen Rose Garden Behind the Scenes. What is the Ascension Process? If you are just getting to know us,
I'm Heather.
And I'm David.
From Zen Rose Garden.
.com.
Okay, Zen Heads, it is time to tag up.
For all of our Zen Heads in Zen Ed Academy, let us know that you're here with a hashtag ZenHead for life.
And if you are watching live, give us a hashtag live drive.
And if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay fam.
That was a long stretch.
It was. What would you consider ascension? Would it be the same as spiritual awakening, or would it be something different?
So, yeah, we want to put this question out to the tribe out there. Like, what are your opinions around ascension? Because there's a lot of different opinions about what it is. Do you believe that it is when we vibrate so high that we literally change our physical body?
Do you believe that we change our thoughts so much to the point where life itself actually moves faster?
Like we can change time and space or perception and we're just moving faster. Personally, I think that we ascend, and I use bunny ears because I think there's a lot of different names for what we call ascension.
Right.
When we ascend our way of thinking, and I think we do it in cycles in our life. Some of those cycles are more intense than others, and so many things become possible.
And it is a constant process.
Yeah.
In our opinion, it's an evolution that continues to evolve.
Well, and like we talked about in our dark side of the soul,
Dark side of the moon.
Our dark night of the soul video series a while back. It definitely can be like one big huge thing, and then it can be a lot of little things.
So if you haven't watched the Dark Night of the Soul series, go ahead and find that playlist on our channel. It's pretty cool. So this morning we gave a class in Zen Ed Academy on integrating the Trinity within, the mother, the father, and the child. It was a great class, and how that moves in cycles of releasing the cords that tether us to old thought processes that slow down our powers of creation. When we're talking about cords here, I'm sure you guys may have heard of energetic cords. The cords that we're talking about are mental cords inside of your mind tied to old memories, old programs, old emotions that are keeping you stuck in your past.
Yes, like old ideas of what we think. We're not necessarily what we think a healthy mother, father inside is, but unhealthy thought processes that are slowing down our, our powers of creation, right? So anyway, I remember when I started this journey into ascension, as we're kind of naming it tonight. If you want to talk about it from the point of view of changing thoughts and beliefs, this is where I think all of us begin, unless we're just trying to spiritually vibrate, and
bypass the work of ascension
and just kind of vibrate our way there, which I've seen people let's just spin around and change our physical vibration, but not change the thought vibrations.
Right.
Because vibrations start with thought.
Don't bypass, don't vibrate your way there. Get with the groove and dance. So in ascension work, there are no shortcuts.
This is what you're trying to say. Okay.
Yes. So although people keep looking for one, right? People are always looking for a shortcut, a way out.
So, I mean, for years, I was stuck in sort of the same vibration, kind of bypassing in my own journey, and got to that point where it was painful enough that I kind of started sensing that I was in some sort of a false bubble of belief.
Homeostatic bubble of falsity.
It just felt like everyone around me that was in what I thought was my tribe was kind of in this false bubble of belief. It was sort of like everyone had fully accepted what was in that bubble, but I just felt like, wow, people keep hitting the ceiling and then going, oh, no, that's the ceiling. We have to stay in this bubble. And I was like, there's got to be something outside of the bubble because I'm hitting a ceiling here and I really feel like there's more outside of it. Yeah. And so kind of going through the process I went through of ascension through that dark night of the soul, there was a moment when it almost felt like I was taking the plunge, because it's very bad to go outside of that bubble of belief if you're in there with a lot of people that believe that's the bubble of belief. Does this make sense?
It's the bubble of belief.
It's making sense inside of my head. I hope it's making sense the way I'm saying it. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to surrender. I've gone this far. And I just kind of dove through, and it felt like I was being squeezed through a toothpaste tube. And I was like, okay, I hope there's a way out of this dark tunnel. And then it was like, boom. And it was bright light on the other side. And I went, oh, the light out here is actually a lot brighter than the light in that bubble I was in. Yep. So I know that's kind of metaphorical, but for me, that is how it felt.
Yep.
when I decided to ascend out of the bubble of thinking I was in.
Ascend out of the old programs into the programs that you know are out there, even if you can't feel them, taste them, touch them, but you know they're there.
Definitely a leap of faith. And put your hand in the comments if you have taken
Put your hand in the comments.
If you have taken that leap of faith without knowing what was on the other side. You just knew that you were banging your head on the ceiling and you knew that.
Hit that like button if you have ever been in your own bubble of belief that everybody else believed, but you were like, no, there's got to be more. There's got to be more, even if you didn't understand what it was.
I think it's
hit that like button.
Yes.
If you have ever been in that bubble.
Well, and coming to the realization that, wait a minute, I just kind of believed what everybody told me
without checking for yourself.
Checking for myself. Yeah. Like I'm believing everything within this bubble of belief, but things aren't working the way people said they're supposed to work. So I think that's the moment we realize, like Victoria says, you feel like you're capable of so much more, but the tools aren't being given to you.
Most sages, most mystics, most wise individuals would agree that ascension is the process of ascending different parts of the subconscious to the level of super conscious mind, right? To the level of spirit, right? The bigger picture. But that doesn't mean anything if your conscious mind is also not in the loop, that bridge in your literal mind as we're going through the ascension process. The ascension process is basically connecting all your pieces and parts so that your dots and your T's and your I's are crossed and dotted.
Well, I think if you want to put it in sort of real world terms, it's like getting an upgrade to your computer.
Yes.
Faster
processor.
It sort of literally is, except it's a lot more of an emotional process than just going to the computer store and upgrading your Microsoft.
Yeah.
So it's basically a process of spiritual upgrading that you do throughout your human lifetime. Yep. And like I said, you can have these big bubbles. Like the moment that I described in my life was pretty big. And it was sort of like, I might die on the other side of this. I don't know yet, but I got to go.
And sometimes it does feel like that.
Yeah.
So this can be radical changes in the way that you think and the way that you live your life. Or it can be very subtle in the beginning, very small changes over time in the beginning, until it reaches a point of like supernova.
Oh, we take little baby steps towards ascension, right? Especially if we're in this bubble of belief, where there's probably a lot of good stuff in that bubble of belief. It may not really all be negative. It's probably a lot of good beliefs, but then there's a limit to it.
Yeah, and there may not be the big picture within that bubble of belief.
Which is kind of where I was in my life. So it's kind of like you make these little leaps of ascension within that bubble, which I was doing. I was definitely doing my work, but then it's like, boom. Oh, I guess not. I guess that, boom, boom, that, and then boom, and pretty soon it's like, right? You look around and there's still not an answer, and then finally you're like, well, I guess I got to go out.
Yep.
So
with any change,
right?
Okay, with any change, there's going to be discomfort along the way. Right. That's just the way that it is. The human mind is designed for a homeostasis living. Okay, it likes its calm, peaceful center in the middle, or at least what it believes to be that familiarity. But with ascension, as we call it, the intensity of the symptoms, and we're talking about ascension symptoms. I'm sure you've seen them.
We're going to talk about those in a minute.
Right. The intensity of those symptoms depend on your level of resistance.
So
how much you fight back.
And we fight back against stuff that we're not familiar with, right? I mean, I kind of surrendered to that test, that toothpaste tube, and it was tight and scary, but I didn't resist it. It was still sort of a tight squeeze. So you're going through radical changes in the way that you think and live your life, and you're taking the leap towards that. And if you're holding on to limitations and resistance, like, oh, I don't want to, I was told not to go that way, you're going to have a bumpier ride.
I mean, it's bumpy anyway, right? Why create more torture?
But we do, right? We're human. We create
way more torture than we need.
But
if you have ever created your own torture in life and you know it, hit that like button.
Work through it like a boss, though. That's what we're saying. And because you can do it, we've done it. And I know a lot of you have gone through that. I can see you and name names right now. But you can reduce the discomfort and speed up the process if you're like, okay, going through the toothpaste tube. Here we go.
Some symptoms that many people can experience when they are making any kind of shift, any kind of an evolution. Okay. Some of those are
Like
heightened sensitivity and awareness.
becoming, like, I know every single one of you
Yep.
can raise your hands on that one, because I know most of you on here.
Yes.
Becoming more body sensitive, not just heightened sensitivity and awarenesses, but
Sensitive to foods, perhaps.
yeah, body. You might just decide to get healthier because this McDonald's doesn't really taste good anymore. It might have been the best thing in the world.
It doesn't resonate with your new frequency. If
Right.
you want to put it in
There you go.
In
frequency terms.
Yeah, there you go.
So
you can also have
changes
in
we're just trading words here. Or you could have changes in mood and your sense of compassion towards other people, right?
So heightened joy, for example, as well as the desire to process those old negative emotions that you've been sweeping under the carpet. You have this desire to be free from them, right?
Yes.
So that means working through them, doing the actual work.
You know, I'm seeing a lot of your comments and I think they're amazing. Like you feel like your emotions were completely rewritten, right? And I totally feel that way too. It's like, and you have a sensation. You know, I've always been an artistic, creative person. So I've always been like, oh, that's so beautiful. But after this process, it was like a flower. Just seeing a flower, the beauty of it can bring you to tears because of that beauty. You see things with a new eyes. So not only are you feeling emotions in a different way,
you're feeling them deeper.
Yeah, but heightened joy, and you want to process those old negative emotions because if you can get rid of those, wow, how much more beautiful can a flower look? It's like you don't even need drugs.
And that, I mean, if you've been with us live at certain points, you will notice that I will occasionally get overwhelmed with emotion, and it is a beautiful experience. So part of this experience might be because you are learning to be more comfortable in your emotional body in a deeper way that you may not have experienced before because you were protecting yourself. So when you move into that emotional body, in order for you to feel safe there and not trapped, you have to clear out all of the old furniture, all of the old bullshit, the old emotions that don't fit anymore. You've got to process those out. You've got to clear those out so that you can have more breathing room so that you can feel deeper in a positive sense.
You know, it's really about learning to sit in yourself and be comfortable with yourself, regardless with what comes up. And I find for a lot of people, it's shame that they're processing, and understanding for me, when I finally got to processing that shame emotion, is realizing that shame is an emotion somebody else gives to you.
Yes.
That you're told you should feel if you do a certain thing. It may not be your own perception of your actions, which may be right actions, just they're wrong through someone else's belief system that might not fit for you. Like, I shouldn't feel shame for this because I did this from my authenticity.
Yes. So emotions are becoming more authentic at this point, and healthy, although they might still express pretty awkward at first.
So you experience catharsis in the ascension process, and that's part of shedding those heavier emotions. So catharsis is when you do something that
I was just going to say, break down catharsis, because
I'm going to break down catharsis. It's one of my favorite words. So when you experience catharsis,
or defenestration,
which is the act of throwing someone out a window, because now I have to tell you what it means because David said it's my favorite word. Catharsis is the act of, let's say you create a beautiful piece of art, or you experience a beautiful symphony, and it brings up some emotions that have been trapped in you for a long time. You experience a catharsis and a releasing and a purging, a processing. It's not just about crying randomly or rolling around. It's a purging and processing.
A transformation
Through some dark emotions, so that on the other side you go, oh, I feel so much better. I've released that stuff that was stuck. That's
and
a catharsis.
There's also the purging and the processing through that dark side so that you can feel better. Like I said, clearing out your emotional new apartment so that you can feel more homey in it. So if you want to feel homey in your
I hope it's your home. So you're going to have changes in your energy. You know, sometimes you wake up with energy flooding through you and this zest and an enthusiasm. I remember waking up in hot flashes before even. Other times you might feel a crash, right? It's kind of an up and down. And at some point it's going to balance out. Like I said, you'll hear us talk about a lot of these in our Dark Night of the Soul series.
You may also be aware of where you've got different blockages in your body and your energetic field. Okay. Your body at this point is starting to show you where it is possible to release these blockages.
And where you might have thought this is all crazy before, you start to really experience an emotion that's stuck in your body releasing. And you're like, wow, I can't believe that had that kind of effect.
So you may dip a toe or maybe all of the toes into some of this energy work stuff at that point, because you're like, okay, I feel it. I want to release it. So where do I find out how? How do I release it? And you may go on that exploratory journey of dipping all of your toes in the water into different modalities.
So you might feel disoriented. I know a lot of people go through that disoriented feeling and detached, like detached from reality at times. But that's important when you start to feel that part of ascension or awakening. It's good to maintain a balance, because you can kind of float off like a balloon and not come back for a while, which is fine for periods, but to maintain a balance between your physical and your spiritual awakening, try spending time in nature, because there's nothing like putting your feet in a river that can ground you. And for me, Yosemite, for some reason, during that 2-year period when I was kind of going through a big healing process, Yosemite was my friend. I think I visited Yosemite 8 times, toes in the sand, a lot of time in traveling through national parks. I don't know. That was like my play. And in rivers, like I cannot tell you how many rivers I waded through and cried in and had breakdowns in. For some reason, that was my thing. Was like, I remember stopping in Sedona on the way to Kansas on a big long trip over Independence Day in like 2007, and just stopping in that river, and it was ice cold, and just just feeling everything purge out. So doing that in periods during an intense period of ascension, awakening, purging,
healing, etc.
I mean, mine was like a 2-year intense, crazy journey.
And a great deal of spiritual work, such as releasing old energies, for example, healing or integration, a lot of that can happen while you're sleeping, which is great, except for when you get woke up in the middle of the night and you're like blazing hot going, I don't know what's happening, but I'm releasing something. Another thing that can happen is changing relationships. Okay. Sometimes we get too attached and hold on to everybody and can't let go. So changing relationships happens as a natural byproduct as your thought processes and your personal energy starts changing. Okay.
Well, and that's a big one. I think when we're talking about limitations and resistance is when we're
hold on to the old.
Some toxic relationships we're going through this awakening process, and we're holding on to a toxic relationship we can't let go of. That's when you experience some of that resistance that you don't need to experience, like the bumpier. You can make the ride bumpier. It's already bumpy, but then you create a new battle that doesn't need to be there. But we all go through it. We've all done it.
And held on to those old people for far too long.
Exactly.
Blazing Turtle says, I'm not in Zen Academy. I stumbled upon your channel somehow and became a fan. I know we've seen you on a couple times, and it's great to see every time that you come on.
I've seen around a lot. So her or him.
I don't know. It's a turtle. Who can tell the sex of a turtle?
I can. This is not a video about how to tell the gender of a turtle, but I will tell you how. Boy turtles have a rounded undershell. Girl turtles have a flat undershell. That's how you tell. You know why? Because boy turtles need to not fall off the girl turtle.
When they're making acquaintances.
When they're liking, when they're hugging.
When they're making friends.
When turtles are hugging, boy turtles need to be able to maintain the hug. So they have the round underbelly. So all you got to do is turn the turtle over. If it's like that, it's a boy turtle. They
have an inverted beer belly. Another thing that may happen is that you might feel a longing for the life that you are birthing to come on and be here already, right? As well as maybe a grief for what you know you have to let go of in order to midwife yourself through the process. Yay for natural birth, right?
Well, thank you for bringing up that turtle analogy right before, because we're talking about birthing. So birth, turtle sex, there you go. Same thing.
Thank you, Blazing Turtle, for bringing that up. Amastella says, I like to sleep and listen to binaural frequencies. It helps to purge. Yes. When I was going through different periods of my awakening, that was something that I love to do, especially when I would go to sleep and just let that process in the background while I went to sleep. So
it's so interesting for me because there were certain ones that I could listen to when I was asleep and other ones that gave me a headache.
Mm-hmm. So when we connected, I would do that at sleep time, and she's like, it keeps me up. I can't do this. So I'm like, what are you talking about?
And some
That's
of them
amazing
would make,
for me.
Yeah. So it just depends on your particular energy. And some of them made me like really hyper and wake up. So it just kind of depends on where you are in your, so let's talk about that process of like you're longing for the home that you wish was here. It's like you're grieving for a life that is gone, but you're not quite in the new life, is coming.
You've left your old home that wasn't really your home, and you haven't found your other home yet.
You're a blazing turtle and you got your home with you. So the awareness is like, and you got weed because you're a blazing turtle, I guess.
I guess turtles always blaze.
So you might long for a home that is there, but you can't remember. Then you realize that it is your job to create that connection here and now, and that feeling of home right here, right now. So that's sort of one of the illusions that you're breaking for yourself in the ascension process.
Yes, it is also vital that you learn to be with yourself during this time, right?
Yeah, and I think this one was, other than putting my feet in rivers and splashing around and purging in rivers, my process was not dating anyone for a year. So not getting in.
I would rephrase that.
Okay.
Not dating anyone else.
Yeah, I dated myself for a year. Okay, I wasn't sure because well, that's not that I didn't like have a cabana boy here and there, but I didn't get into a relationship or date anyone for a whole year once I was single and started going through this whole process because I wanted to learn how to be with myself.
You just hugged people.
I just hugged people. So resistance to me was the resisting the desire to fill that space with somebody else, to fill the space with another person in a relationship.
That is an example of filling or not filling the desire of going to the old program, going to the old habit of having somebody in your space. And this is crucial when anybody goes through a breakup, is to give yourself time to be with yourself, especially during an awakening process.
Well, it wasn't just a regular breakup. It was like a life-changing change. So for me, it was like, I need to take this time to know myself and be with myself. And I was realizing at that moment that I've never had a period where I didn't have someone in my life that was taking up space for myself to, block me from really looking at my stuff. So I think that's important too.
Yeah. So the idea here is to create a spiritual home within yourself. Okay. Yeah. So the kingdom of heaven, create that here. Date yourself. Take yourself out to sushi. Take yourself out to blaze with turtles. I don't know.
We're making all sorts of assumptions
about blazing turtles. Create that home within yourself as you awaken. And as you ascend out of these old programs that no longer serve you, you have to create a new safe zone, a new safe place, a new place for you to come home as you continue growing on your own.
So how to deal with these things, because if you've been through it, you know that they can be up and down. You can have hot flashes, you can have cold flashes, you can have shakes, you can have all sorts of stuff. And I was not doing any kind of drugs. So let's rule that out right now.
So if you've been on any parts of these these phases of spiritual awakening, give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comments what kinds of phases were the hardest for you.
So how to deal with it is basically stay open to the experience of ascension symptoms, because they're going to be different for everyone at different moments. They're rocky, but blocking or resisting them slows down that ascension process. Let go and allow the changes to flow through your life. Be in the river. Just imagine the river with you.
Or just be the river. Have faith. The river. Have faith that all of these things, even if they seem like they're negative, are working out in your favor, even if you can't see it right now. Okay. When you have that kind of faith, then the process becomes smoother. So I wanted to say, Victoria's Reed says, I put your meditations on when I go to sleep. Awesome. Victoria's Reed says, I sleep better. Amastella says 432 hertz is good. I personally preferred 528 when I was doing it, but that was me. I also had like the whole solfeggio frequencies playing at different times, and it was all kinds of craziness.
I have to tell you a personal side note about David. His meditations are amazing. So we met when he was in Sacramento and I was in Las Vegas, and I'm spoiled because I was still working through a lot of my processes when we met. And we would talk on the phone, and for some reason, to me, his voice on the phone sounds different to me than when we're in person. So when I hear him on the phone, it's like, who's this hot guy? It's like this. So, I mean, he's a hot guy, I think, but you know what I mean? It's like, it sort of sounds, because he goes into, when he's on the phone, he kind of goes into hypnotherapy voice.
Hypno voice.
Right. And which is a little bit different than when we're in person, because we're just like in David and Heather voice. But when he's on the phone with me, it's like hypnotherapy voice. It's like all of a sudden a different vibe. So he would do meditations for me over the phone. And just snap into that hypno voice. And I'd be like, oh, and sometimes he would put me to sleep. Like as I was working
in good ways,
in a good, but like in a good way.
So much.
He would create a meditation for me, a hypnotherapy meditation for me on the spot as I was working through some of these unwirings for myself. And it was really kind of cool. So I got spoiled and I got some personal.
Yep. You've got me on tap. You can tap this anytime.
Did I just?
You did. You just tapped me.
I
did. I just said you could tap me anytime.
Well, I didn't mean to poke you in the eye. So
tap this anytime you want. Anyway.
This is supposed to be.
All right. So
guys,
keep in mind, this is some behind the scenes kind of stuff.
I told you.
It's ridiculous how effective he is. Oh, you guys are amazing.
You know, there's two sides to David. He's got his goofy imp leprechaun side. And then he's got, when he snaps into his magic, it's like, he like puts you out. It's like that magical voice. So anyway,
I'll put people to sleep.
We'll be back to chop it up with our YouTube fam.
Hashtag YouTube fam.
Faster than 2 shakes of a unicorn's tail.
After he has pooped rainbow frosting on your carpet, it is a wonderful sight to behold. Do not smell. Do not inhale. Do not inhale. Blazing turtle, don't inhale.
You get really high on that stuff. So
Victorious Reed says, you are amazing together. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. So great to have you guys here.
Yes.
If you liked this video, hit that like button 5 times.
And if you have any insider stuff you want to know, let us know in the comments.
We'd love to hear your stories and to tell you all of our personal stories.
You know, because we got to let go too. So for more live hangouts,
behind the scenes secrets, and mind hacking pro tips,
be sure to subscribe
and click that bell right down there to turn on notifications.
So you're the first to know
when we drop a new video
or go live.
And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource. And the fact that you guys have chosen to spend that with us, we absolutely honor and appreciate that. Most importantly, that you guys are here to level up your skills and take your life and your business to a completely new level. We absolutely honor and appreciate that. Go out there, ascend your ass off.
I need a bumper sticker. Ascend your ass off.
Yes.
Go on the back of your car. Zen Rose Garden.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Ascend your ass off.